time to time, we experience the changing weather conditions in the Earth's atmosphere. This changing weather greatly affects our daily life. Typhoon is one of the severe weather conditions that affect the Philippines. It is locally known as bagyo, but in other places, it is called hurricane or cyclone. According to the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA, Typhoon is a tropical cyclone with a maximum wind speed of 118 to 220 kilometers per hour. It is a type of large storm system having a circular or spiral system of violent winds, typically hundreds of kilometers or miles in diameter. The winds spiral around the region of low atmospheric pressure. Typhoon is the name of the storms that occurred in the Western Pacific. Pero ano nga bang sanhi ng bagyo? Ayon sa Greek mythology, typhoons and hurricanes were caused by the hepatogyres, three monstrous gods born from the union of Uranus, the sky god, and Gaia, the earth goddess. The brothers named Briareos, Cottus, and Gyges each had 50 heads and 100 hands. Upon seeing them, Uranus was horrified and cast them into Tartarus, a bleak underworld filled with chaos and despair. The brothers were eventually rescued from their torment by Zeus, who enlisted them in his battle against the Titans. The hepatogyres overwhelmed the Titans by gaining stones upon them with their 100 hands and were rewarded with places beneath the waters. Cottus and Gyges in the river Oceanus and Briareos beneath the Aegean Sea, and assigned to release the punishing storms of Tartarus upon mortals at the command of the other gods. Dito sa Pilipinas, ayon sa mga sinaunang metodolohiya ng ating mga ninunong Kapampangan, ang mga bagyo ay gawa ng isang makapangyarihang diwata na may anyong tila isang agila na tinatawag nilang si Apong Galura. Ang mga bagyo ay pinaniniwalaang nagmumula sa malalakas na pagpagaspas ng malalawak at malalaking pakpak o bagyos ni Apong Galura habang siya'y lumilipad mula sa tinatawag na timog laot ng mga Kapampangan o mas kilala sa tawag na Pacific Ocean. Si Apong Galura ang tinaguriang alili o kanang kamay ng makapangyarihang hari ng mga diwata, si Apong Sinukuan. Apong Sinukuan was the mighty and benevolent fairy White Phoenix, the supreme god of the Kapampangan people, the god of war of ancient Luzon. Siya ang makapangyarihang diwata ng araw, digmaan at kamatayan. At bilang kanang kamay, si Apong Galura ay pinapadala ni Apong Sinukuan upang linisin ang lipunan at ito ay isa sa pamamagitan ng pagpapagaspas ng kanyang pakpak na siya namang naging sanhi ng malalakas na hangin at bagyo mula sa timog laot. O ano? Nahaba kayo mga kagamis? Well, hindi pa siya nagtatapos dahil kung naaliw kayo sa metodologiyang kung paano nabuo ang isang bagyo, hindi rin magpapatalo ang siyensya sa pagpapaliwanag dyan. Hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons are all the same weather phenomenon which is commonly called tropical cyclone or storm. It is just called by different names in different places. Its location relative to the international dateline determines whether it is to be called typhoon, hurricane, or cyclone. A typhoon is, on the international dateline, is called hurricane. Thus, in the Atlantic and the Northeast Pacific, the term hurricane is used. While in the Northwest Pacific, it is called typhoon, and cyclones in the South Pacific and Indian Ocean. Typhoons affecting the Philippines form over tropical waters between 8 degrees to 20 degrees latitude. In areas where humidity is high, where there are light winds and warm sea surface temperatures of 26.5 degrees Celsius or greater. These conditions usually prevail in summer in the North Pacific Oceans, and this is the reason why typhoon season in the Northern Hemisphere occurs from June to November. Given the favorable conditions, the tropical disturbance starts with a tropical depression. The heat from the sun causes the ocean water to evaporate, allowing the warm, moist air to rise. The rising of the light, warm, moist air creates a low-pressure area or LPA, also called depression by the meteorologists. The LPA is surrounded by air of high pressure. Thus, air from the surrounding flows toward the low-pressure area. The movement of air from high-pressure area to low-pressure area creates strong winds. The winds that blow from high-pressure area to low-pressure area move over the ocean surface of the Earth that has a spinning motion. The rotation of the Earth makes the wind tend to curve and move in a circular motion. This is known as Coriolis effect. When warm, moist air rises, the water vapor condenses as it is cooled at higher altitudes. Condensation releases heat energy into areas within the tropical disturbance. The heat causes more air to expand and continue to rise and then sink when cooled. The creation of the LPA draws in more air at the surface, and this air converges near the center of the storm to form more clouds. The LPA intensifies and becomes a tropical storm when the spinning motion of the winds gets larger as more and more warm, moist air rises and condenses. The heat from the condensation makes the surrounding air less dense, causing it to rise farther. This results in further decrease in the air pressure. The more pressure drops, the more winds intensify, drawing more heat and moisture from the ocean surface. Like an ice skater whose body spins faster as his arms are drawn inward, air near the surface speeds up as it spirals in toward the center of the low-pressure air. The increasing winds that spin around the center of the storm draw heat and moisture from the warm ocean surface, providing more fuel for the rising moist air that produces clouds and increased temperatures. The rising temperature near the center of the storm causes surface pressure to drop even more. The lower the surface pressure, the more rapid air flows into the storm, making the winds stronger. The air pressure at the surface drops even more, triggering stronger winds, and so on. Thus, a typhoon is formed. At the surface, a typhoon weakens when it moves over cooler water that can no longer supply the warm, moist air. When it moves over the land where the supply of warm, moist air is cut off, and when it moves into an area where stronger winds in the higher atmosphere disperse the heat and cool the temperature at high altitudes and high pressures, area is created over the surface. Oh, amazing, di ba? Ngayon, alam niyo naman natin kung gaano kayo kapamilyar sa typhoon o bagyo sa pamamagitan ng pagsagot sa ating amazing quiz na ito. Ang amazing question number 1. Ang typhoon most devastating region is the eye. This is the location within a typhoon where the most damaging winds and intense rainfall is found. Letter A, true. Letter B, false. The correct answer is letter B, false. At the center of the typhoon is the eye. It is a cloud-free area with a sinking cool air and light winds. The eye is the area of calm weather at the center of the typhoon. On the other hand, surrounding the eye of a typhoon is the eye wall with very thick clouds. It is the most devastating or destructive section of the typhoon. It is the area of most violent winds, heaviest rainfall, and where a great amount of heat energy is released. An amazing question number 2. What do you call the Philippine National Institution dedicated to provide flood and typhoon warnings, public weather forecast advisories, meteorological, astronomical, climatological, and other specialized information and services primarily for the protection of life and property and in support of economic, productivity, and suitable development? Letter A, PHIVOLS. Letter B, DNR. Letter C, Pag-asa. The correct choice is letter C, Pag-asa. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, otherwise known as Pag-asa, is the agency responsible for maintaining a nationwide observation and forecasting network focusing on weather and other climatological conditions that might affect the safety, welfare, and economy of the country. It also conducts geophysical and astronomical studies as well as typhoon research. An amazing question number 3. It is an area in northwestern Pacific where the State Weather Bureau of Pag-asa observes weather occurrences. This is often observed whenever disturbances, specifically in the case of tropical cyclones, enter this area and eventually be given locally specific names. Letter A, Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR. Letter B, Pacific Ring of Fire. Or letter C, West Philippine Sea. The correct choice is letter A, Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR. This is the smallest and innermost monitoring domain whose boundary is closest to the Philippine Islands. The exact dimensions of this domain are the area of the western North Pacific. The western boundary of the PAR is closer to the coastline of the country than the eastern boundary. The eastern PAR boundary is several hundred kilometers away from the nearest coastline in the eastern part of the country and completely encloses the East Philippine Sea. Tropical cyclones inside the PAR warrants the issuance of severe weather bulletin, the highest level of warning information issued for tropical cyclones. Bago tayo magtapos, narito muna ang mga trivia amazing na hatid namin sa inyo tungkol sa bagyo. The most devastating typhoon to ever hit Philippine shores happened even before the country gained its independence from Spain. Typhoon Haipong developed over the Pacific Ocean in late September 1881, and though its exact category and strength are unknown, the impact it had on the Philippines and Vietnam was devastating. Around 20,000 people died in the Philippines alone. Super Typhoon Haiyan, locally known as Typhoon Yolanda, entered the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR on November 6, 2013 and created new history for the Philippines because it affected a total of 3,424,593 families or 16,078,181 persons, killing 6,318 persons, 28,689 were injured, and 1,061 were still missing. Katrina in 2005 was the costliest hurricane on record, causing an estimated of $108 billion in damage in Louisiana and Mississippi. It also caused an estimated of 1,500 deaths. Typhoon Tip in the western North Pacific on October 12, 1979 was measured to have a central pressure of 870 MB and estimated 1-minute average winds of 190 mph, making it the most intense tropical cyclone on record as measured by central pressure. Strong winds that can topple trees and buildings are just one part of what makes a typhoon so dangerous. Other hazards from any typhoon or hurricane include heavy rainfall, storm surge, and storm tides, rip currents, flooding both along the coast and inland, landslides and flash floods caused by oversaturated ground, and tornadoes found by overt storms within or near the cyclone, usually in the outer edges of the typhoon or near its eye wall. More tropical cyclones or TCs are entering the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR than anywhere else in the world, with an average of 20 TCs in this region per year, with about 8 or 9 of them crossing the Philippines. The peak of the typhoon season is July through October, when nearly 70% of all typhoons develop. Most typhoons that enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR usually move to the east-northwest direction due to the presence of mountain ranges. Mountain ranges act as barriers that may cause the typhoon to change its path, reduce its wind speed, and may even cause the typhoon to dissipate. As the typhoon makes a landfall, the wind speed weakens since it moves to a land mass, away from the main source of water vapor. The water vapor or the moist air is the main source of energy of storms. Since a typhoon can cause massive destruction to both lives and properties, it is necessary for us to have a better understanding of the nature of typhoons to prepare ourselves in case the disaster strikes. Here are some safety measures we need to do before, during, and after a typhoon. Bago sa Pilipinas ang pagdaan ng mga bagyo. Sa gusto man natin o hindi, ay taon-taon tayong susubukin ng mga kalamidad na ito. May mga panahon na mahina lang at may mga panahon din ginugulat tayo sa lakas na dala nito. Kaya nga mga ka-amaze, maging alerto at handa tayo sa mga paparating na bagyo at iyakin ang kaligtasan ng ating pamilya.
This is Joseph Villanueva
with Gerson Palacios
and Mary Ann Ani
Brings you ang amazing stories.